Have you ever found yourself getting angry at the smallest things? Maybe it's a traffic jam, someone cutting in line, or a frustrating comment from a friend. Why is it that we let these little moments completely ruin our day? What if you could learn how to never get angry again? Imagine how much more peaceful your life could be if anger simply wasn't a part of it. Today, we're going to explore exactly how you can achieve this. But here's the real question. Is anger really necessary? Does it help us? Or is it just holding us back? Think about a time when you got angry. Did it actually solve the problem? Or did it just create more stress and conflict? What if there's a better way to respond? Let me share a simple example. You're stuck in traffic, and you feel the frustration building. Your hands grip the steering wheel, your heart starts racing, and before you know it, you're fuming. But does your anger make the traffic move faster? Of course not. It only makes you feel worse. Now, imagine reacting differently, calmly, without frustration. That's what we're here to discover. Welcome to Wisdom Woven. In this video, we'll uncover how you can master your emotions and live without anger. But before we dive in, I have a quick request. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of you are subscribing. If you find value in what we share, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue bringing you valuable content. Buddhism teaches us that anger is not an uncontrollable force. It's something we can understand and transform. By tapping into ancient wisdom, we can find practical steps to overcome anger, no matter how deeply rooted it seems. In the teachings of Buddha, anger is seen as one of the three poisons that cloud our minds and create suffering. But just as we've learned to react with anger, we can unlearn it too. Through awareness and mindfulness, we start to see that anger is temporary. It comes and goes like waves in the ocean. The secret is in realizing that these waves don't have to knock us down. They don't control us. We'll explore how to stop these emotional waves before they even begin, using simple practices from Buddhism that anyone can follow. In this series, we'll break down what triggers anger, how to identify it in the moment, and how to respond in a calm, peaceful way. With time, patience, and the right mindset, you can train yourself to rise above anger. Imagine living your life with a sense of inner peace, no longer at the mercy of these outbursts. Anger often feels like it's out of our control, but it doesn't have to be. Stay with us throughout this video, and by the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to approach life's frustrations with calmness and clarity. Understanding the nature of anger. Anger. It's a feeling we all know too well, isn't it? It comes in many forms: frustration, irritation, rage. But at its core, it's something that disrupts our peace. Why is it that we get angry? Have you ever stopped to really think about it? Why do the actions of others, the situations we find ourselves in, or even just our own thoughts, stir up this powerful emotion within us? In Buddhism, anger is often compared to a fire. It burns, it destroys, and it leaves us feeling exhausted. But here's something many people don't realize. Anger is not something that exists outside of us. It's not something that other people give us. It's something that arises from within. It's born out of our reactions to the world around us. And because it comes from within, we have the ability to control it. Let's take a moment to think about what happens when you get angry. Maybe you're at work, and your boss criticizes you. Immediately, your heart starts racing, your face feels hot, and you can feel the tension building. You think, why is he picking on me? This isn't fair. Before you know it, you're wrapped up in a storm of emotions. But if we break this down, what's really happening? Is it your boss's words that are making you angry? Or is it your reaction to those words? Buddhism teaches us that anger is a response to unmet expectations, desires, or attachments. We expect the world to go a certain way, and when it doesn't, we feel a sense of frustration. For example, you expect people to be kind to you, so when they're rude, it feels unfair, and anger rises up. But here's the interesting part. Those expectations, those attachments, they exist in your mind. The world doesn't promise to meet your expectations. It simply is what it is. Anger arises when we resist this reality. Let's think about this on a deeper level. Imagine you're walking down the street, and someone bumps into you. If you're having a good day, maybe you shrug it off and keep walking. But if you're stressed or in a bad mood, the same bump might make you furious. Why is that? The external event, the bump, was the same, but your reaction changed. This is a key point in understanding anger. It's not the event itself that makes us angry, but how we perceive it, how we choose to react. So, what does Buddhism say about how to deal with anger? The first step is awareness. Most of the time, when we're angry, we're not really aware of what's going on. We just react, almost automatically. The anger flares up, and we're swept away by it. But what if, instead of being caught up in the anger, you could step back and observe it? What if you could notice the moment anger begins to arise, and instead of letting it take over, you could choose a different response? This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to what's happening in the present moment, without judgment. When you practice mindfulness, you start to notice the early signs of anger. You feel the heat rising, the tension in your body, the racing thoughts. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can either let the anger take control, or you can pause, take a breath, and choose a different path. Let me share a simple story from Zen teachings that illustrates this. There was once a student who came to his Zen master, full of anger. He complained about everything: his family, his job, his life. The master listened quietly, and then asked the student to hold a cup of water. The master took a small spoon of salt and stirred it into the cup. He then asked the student to take a sip. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Terrible," the student replied. "It's too salty." The master nodded and led the student to a nearby lake. He took the same spoon of salt and stirred it into the water. Then, he asked the student to take a sip from the lake. "How does it taste now?" the master asked. "It's fresh and clean," the student said. The master smiled. "The salt is like your anger," he said. "When your mind is small, it feels overwhelming, just like the salt in the cup. But when your mind is vast, like the lake, the same salt, your anger, has no power over you. Expand your mind, and your anger will dissolve." This story holds a powerful lesson for all of us. When we're caught up in anger, our minds become small and narrow. All we can focus on is what's wrong, what's unfair, what's frustrating. But if we can expand our perspective, if we can step back and see the bigger picture, our anger loses its power. It's still there, but it doesn't overwhelm us. It becomes something small, something we can manage. One way to expand your mind is through meditation. When you meditate, you learn to observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them. You start to see that emotions, like anger, are temporary. They come and go. They don't define you. You don't have to act on them. You don't have to let them control you. Over time, with practice, you become less reactive. You become more centered, more grounded. Anger still arises, but it no longer knocks you off balance. Another important teaching in Buddhism is the concept of compassion. Often, our anger is directed at others. We feel wronged, mistreated, or disrespected. But if we can cultivate compassion, if we can see the other person's suffering, their struggles, our anger begins to soften. We realize that, just like us, they are imperfect beings trying to navigate a difficult world. This doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior, but it does mean that we approach others with more understanding and less judgment. Here's something to try the next time you feel angry at someone. Take a moment to breathe and ask yourself, what might this person be going through? Maybe they're stressed, maybe they've had a bad day, maybe they're carrying burdens you know nothing about. When you approach the situation with this mindset, it's much harder to stay angry. Instead of reacting with frustration, you start to respond with patience and kindness. Anger is a powerful emotion, but it doesn't have to control you. By understanding its nature, by practicing mindfulness and compassion, you can transform your relationship with anger. Instead of being swept away by it, you can observe it, learn from it, and ultimately, let it go. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, practice, and patience. But with each step you take, you'll find that your mind becomes more like the vast, calm lake, and less like the small, salty cup. So, the next time anger arises, remember this. You have a choice. You can either feed the fire of anger, letting it burn brighter and stronger, or you can choose to let it pass. You can choose peace. You can choose calm. And with each choice, you move closer to a life free from anger, a life filled with inner peace. the Buddhist concept of impermanence. Anicca, let's talk about something fundamental to life itself, impermanence, or what we call in Buddhism, anicca. Everything around us is constantly changing, but how often do we truly stop and notice that? More importantly, how does understanding this simple truth help us never get angry again? Today, we're going to explore this. Think about it for a moment. Everything in your life, from the weather to your emotions, is always shifting, evolving, and passing. Nothing stays exactly the same. The world around us is in constant motion, just like the thoughts and feelings in our own minds. Understanding anicca, the idea that nothing is permanent, can be one of the most powerful tools in freeing yourself from anger. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been angry about something and, in the heat of the moment, it felt like the world was ending? Maybe someone said something hurtful, and for a while, all you could focus on was that pain. You might have even thought, this feeling is never going to go away. But here's the truth. It always does. No matter how intense your anger feels in the moment, it is not permanent. It comes and goes, just like everything else. The more you truly understand this concept, the less control anger has over you. Instead of reacting with frustration or rage, you can observe your anger with calmness and patience, knowing that it will pass. Think of your emotions like the weather. Sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it rains, and other times there's a storm. But no matter how bad the storm is, it never lasts forever. Your anger is the same. It's like a storm passing through your mind. But instead of getting caught in the rain, you can learn to step back, take a deep breath, and remind yourself, this too shall pass. When we resist this truth, when we try to hold on to things that are always changing, that's when we suffer. Anger often comes from our desire for things to be different than they are. Maybe you want someone to act a certain way, or for a situation to go in your favor. But when life doesn't meet our expectations, we resist, we fight against reality, and that resistance often turns into anger. But what if you accepted that things will change? What if you realized that no matter how much you want to control everything around you, the truth is, you can't? This is where anicca comes into play. When we deeply understand that everything is in constant motion, we learn to let go of our need to control it all. And in letting go, we let go of anger as well. Now, this doesn't mean you should become passive or let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you stop caring about the world around you. But it does mean you can develop a calm and wise perspective. You learn to approach life with a lighter heart, knowing that nothing is set in stone. You don't hold on to anger because you understand that it's just another passing emotion, like clouds moving across the sky. Here's a simple way to start practicing this. The next time you feel anger rising, stop for a moment and ask yourself, is this feeling permanent? Will this moment last forever? The answer, of course, is no. Even the most frustrating situations are only temporary. This realization can help you relax, take a step back, and respond more calmly. Let me share a story from Buddhist tradition. There was once a king who wanted something that would make him happy when he was sad, and calm when he was angry. He asked the wisest minds in his kingdom to find a solution. After much thought, they gave him a simple ring, engraved with the words, "This too shall pass." Whenever the king looked at it, he was reminded that no matter how he felt, joy or sadness, it would not last forever. This wisdom brought him peace. Just like the king, we too can benefit from reminding ourselves of this truth. Whether you're facing anger, sadness, or even joy, knowing that everything is temporary can bring a sense of peace and balance to your life. You realize that there's no need to cling to any emotion because it's all just part of the natural flow of life. Another important aspect of anicca is realizing that people are also constantly changing. Have you ever been angry at someone and then later found out more about their situation, realizing they didn't mean to hurt you? People, just like emotions, are not fixed. They are influenced by countless factors, moods, experiences, and thoughts, all of which are constantly shifting. When you understand that everyone around you is also in this state of impermanence, it becomes easier to let go of anger towards others. You realize that they are also doing their best to navigate this ever-changing world. They too have their moments of frustration, confusion, and growth. By accepting this, we can replace anger with compassion, seeing others as fellow travelers on the same path of life. Think about it. How many times have you been angry at someone, only to realize later that they were going through something difficult themselves? Or maybe you've been on the receiving end of someone else's anger, and you knew that their outburst wasn't really about you. It was about something they were struggling with. Understanding impermanence helps us see that our anger, and the anger of others, is just a momentary reaction, not the full picture. In Buddhism, we often talk about non-attachment, and this is closely linked to anicca. When we attach ourselves to things, whether it's material possessions, people, or even our own emotions, we set ourselves up for suffering. Why? Because all of these things are temporary. When we cling to them, we're resisting their natural flow, and that resistance creates frustration and anger. Non-attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You can love someone deeply, but still recognize that they, like everything else, are subject to change. You can enjoy life's pleasures, but not cling to them as if they'll last forever. And when it comes to emotions, you can experience them fully without letting them control you. So how does this help you never get angry again? By embracing impermanence, you stop expecting life to be a certain way. You stop clinging to fixed outcomes or rigid ideas of how things should be. You flow with life, rather than resisting it. And in that flow, you find peace. Anger arises when we resist what is. It's a reaction to the gap between what we want and what we get. But when you deeply understand that everything is constantly changing, that nothing stays the same, you realize there's no point in holding on to that anger. It will pass, just like everything else. This is the essence of anicca. When we fully grasp this truth, we free ourselves from the grip of anger. We learn to live with more peace, more acceptance, and more compassion for ourselves and others. So, remember, the next time you feel anger bubbling up, remind yourself of impermanence. This moment, this feeling, this situation, it's all temporary. It's just a passing wave, and soon enough, it will be gone. And in that moment, you'll find yourself a little closer to the calm, peaceful life you've always wanted. The role of mindfulness, sati, in managing anger. Imagine this. You're sitting quietly, minding your own business, and someone says something that makes you instantly angry. Maybe they criticize you, maybe they're rude, or perhaps they say something that pushes an old button. In just a split second, you feel your body heat up, your heart race, and your mind explode with frustration or hurt. What happened? Where did that sudden anger come from? More importantly, how can you stop it? That's where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness, or sati as it's called in Buddhism, is about being fully present in the moment. It's about being aware of what is happening inside you and around you. The reason anger takes over so quickly is that we aren't usually aware of what's happening until it's too late. We only realize we've lost our cool after the anger has already taken hold of us. But here's the good news. You can learn to see the anger coming before it explodes. How? Through mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is simple. It's about paying attention. You don't need any fancy tools or complex techniques. It's about noticing your thoughts, your feelings, and your body in the present moment without trying to change anything. It sounds easy, right? But in practice, it can be tricky because our minds are often somewhere else. We're thinking about what someone said earlier, or worrying about something that might happen tomorrow. We're rarely just here. When you're mindful, you catch yourself before you get lost in that wave of anger. It's like you're standing on the shore, watching the waves come in. Instead of being dragged out to sea by them, you start to notice the subtle signs. The way your body tenses up, how your heart begins to race, or how your thoughts start spinning out of control. This awareness is the first step in stopping anger before it takes over. The power of the pause. One of the most powerful things mindfulness teaches us is the ability to pause. Normally, when we feel angry, we react immediately. Someone says something rude, and we snap back. We don't even think about it. Our reaction is automatic. But when you're mindful, you learn to create a small gap between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Let's say someone cuts in front of you in line. Normally, you might instantly feel annoyed and say something sarcastic or rude. But with mindfulness, you catch that feeling of irritation as it arises. You pause. In that pause, you give yourself a moment to breathe, to check in with yourself, and to decide how you want to respond, rather than reacting on autopilot. This pause might seem small, but it's incredibly powerful. It gives you a moment to calm down, to see the situation more clearly, and to choose a response that doesn't add more fuel to the fire. Instead of lashing out, you might simply smile and let it go. Or, if a response is necessary, you can speak calmly and kindly, rather than with anger. Noticing your triggers. Another important part of mindfulness is understanding your triggers. We all have certain things that make us angry more easily than others. For some, it's being disrespected. For others, it's feeling ignored. The key is to become aware of what triggers you. When you practice mindfulness, you start to notice patterns. Maybe you realize that you get angry every time someone interrupts you. Or maybe you notice that you're more irritable when you're tired or hungry. Once you know what triggers your anger, you can start to manage it better. Instead of being caught off guard, you'll recognize, this is one of those situations that usually makes me angry. And with that awareness, you can choose a different response. Staying in the present moment. A lot of our anger comes from not being fully present. When someone says something rude, for example, we often react based on past experiences. Maybe their comment reminds us of something hurtful someone else said years ago, and all that old pain comes rushing back. Or we might start imagining future consequences. If they talk to me like that now, how will they treat me next time? And we get angry about things that haven't even happened yet. Mindfulness brings us back to the present. Instead of letting your mind drag you into the past or future, you stay focused on what is happening right now. This helps you see the situation more clearly. You're not reacting to old wounds or imagined futures. You're dealing with what's actually in front of you. For example, let's say someone criticizes your work. Without mindfulness, you might feel hurt and angry, remembering all the times people have criticized you in the past. But with mindfulness, you take a deep breath and focus on the present. You notice how their words make you feel, but you don't let yourself get swept up in old emotions. You stay grounded in the moment, which allows you to respond more thoughtfully. Breathing through anger. One of the simplest and most effective mindfulness tools is your breath. When you feel anger rising, your breath can be your anchor. The next time you start to feel that heat of frustration, try this. Stop, take a deep breath in, and slowly breathe out. Do this a few times. What you'll notice is that your body and mind will start to calm down. When we're angry, our breath becomes shallow and fast, which only makes the anger worse. By slowing down your breath, you signal to your brain that it's okay to relax. You create space for calmness, and in that calmness, you can choose a better way to respond. Seeing the bigger picture. Mindfulness also helps you see the bigger picture. Often, when we're angry, our focus narrows. All we can think about is the thing that made us mad. But when you practice mindfulness, you learn to zoom out and see things in context. Let's say you're angry because a coworker was rude to you. Without mindfulness, you might dwell on their behavior and let it ruin your whole day. But with mindfulness, you take a step back. You start to wonder, why were they rude? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're stressed about something that has nothing to do with me. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you not take it so personally. It allows you to respond with understanding instead of anger. Practicing mindfulness every day. Mindfulness isn't something you do once and forget about. It's a practice. The more you do it, the better you get at catching anger before it takes over. You can practice mindfulness anytime, anywhere. You don't need a quiet room or a meditation cushion. You can be mindful while you're eating, walking, or even talking to someone. All it takes is paying attention. The next time you feel anger starting to rise, try this. Pause. Take a deep breath. Notice what's happening in your body and mind. Where do you feel the anger? What thoughts are going through your head? Don't judge it, just notice it. Then, choose how you want to respond. Over time, this practice will become second nature, and you'll find that anger loses its grip on you. In Buddhism, it's said that mindfulness is like a light that illuminates our inner world. When we're mindful, we can see our emotions clearly and make wise choices. Without mindfulness, we're in the dark, stumbling through our reactions. By cultivating mindfulness, we can transform our relationship with anger and, ultimately, live a more peaceful life. Practicing compassion, karuna, to overcome anger. Let's talk about compassion. It's one of the most powerful tools we have to dissolve anger. Imagine for a moment. When someone says or does something that triggers your anger, what if, Instead of reacting with frustration, you could respond with kindness and understanding. What if you could see beyond the action and understand the pain, the confusion, or the struggle that person might be going through? That's the heart of compassion, karuna, in Buddhism. It's not just about being kind to others. It's about truly understanding the suffering that lies beneath their actions. When you can see the pain in someone else's actions, your anger naturally fades away. Compassion acts like water on a fire. It cools things down, bringing calmness where there was once heat. Let's dive deeper into this. Think about the last time someone made you angry. Maybe it was a stranger who said something rude, or maybe it was someone close to you who disappointed you. Your first reaction might have been anger, right? But what if you took a step back and asked, why did they act this way? Could it be that they were having a bad day? Or maybe they were dealing with stress, frustration, or pain of their own? This shift in thinking is key. When we focus only on our own anger, we create a wall between ourselves and others. But compassion breaks down that wall. It helps us realize that others, just like us, are human beings with their own challenges and struggles. Everyone has moments of weakness, and everyone makes mistakes. Instead of judging or reacting with anger, compassion invites us to understand. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone bumps into you without apologizing. Your first instinct might be to feel angry, thinking, how rude. But then, what if you find out that this person had just received some bad news and wasn't paying attention? Suddenly, the anger fades, replaced by understanding. You realize they weren't trying to be disrespectful. They were simply lost in their own thoughts and pain. This is what compassion does. It allows us to see beyond the surface of someone's actions and into the deeper layers of their experience. When we do this, anger has no place to grow. Now, I'm not saying that practicing compassion is always easy. In fact, it can be quite challenging, especially when someone's actions seem unjust or hurtful. But here's the thing. Compassion doesn't mean accepting bad behavior or letting people walk all over you. It doesn't mean ignoring harm or pretending everything is okay. Compassion is about understanding the suffering behind the actions, while also recognizing the need for healthy boundaries. For example, if someone in your life is consistently disrespectful, you can respond with compassion by recognizing that their behavior may come from their own struggles. But that doesn't mean you allow them to keep treating you poorly. Compassion can guide you to set clear, firm boundaries while still maintaining kindness in your heart. In Buddhism, there's a famous teaching called the Four Immeasurables, and compassion is one of them. These are qualities we can cultivate in ourselves to live a life of peace and happiness. Compassion, karuna, means wishing for the end of suffering for all beings. It's not about pity or feeling sorry for someone. It's about genuinely wanting others to be free from the pain that causes them to act in harmful ways. When we cultivate compassion, we begin to see the world differently. Instead of seeing people as adversaries or threats, we start to see them as fellow travelers on this journey of life, all trying to find peace and happiness, just like us. And this realization softens our heart, making anger less and less likely to arise. A practical way to develop compassion is through meditation. There's a specific type of meditation called metta, or loving-kindness meditation. In this practice, you begin by sending feelings of love and kindness to yourself. Then, you gradually extend those feelings to others. First to your loved ones, then to people you're neutral toward, and finally to people you find difficult or who have hurt you in some way. This may sound simple, but it can be incredibly transformative. When you regularly practice sending compassion, even to those who anger or frustrate you, it changes the way you react to them in real life. You start to feel less reactive and more understanding. Instead of feeling anger, you feel empathy. Imagine this scenario. You're having a disagreement with someone at work. Normally, this would trigger a lot of frustration and maybe even anger. But if you've been practicing compassion, you might find yourself thinking, this person is going through their own challenges. Maybe that's why they're acting this way. And just like that, the heat of the moment cools down. Another important aspect of compassion is recognizing that you, too, deserve compassion. Sometimes, we're hardest on ourselves. We get angry at ourselves for mistakes, for not being perfect, for not handling situations the way we think we should. But just as others have their struggles, so do we. Practicing self-compassion means being kind to yourself, forgiving yourself for your mistakes, and understanding that you're doing your best with the tools you have at the moment. When we're kind to ourselves, it becomes easier to be kind to others. The more we forgive our own flaws, the more we can forgive the flaws of those around us. Compassion is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it might feel unnatural or difficult, especially when faced with situations that would normally make you angry. But with time and practice, it becomes second nature. You'll find that your first reaction is no longer anger, but understanding. In our daily lives, we're constantly given opportunities to practice compassion. From small annoyances to bigger conflicts, each moment is a chance to choose understanding over anger. When you start seeing these moments as opportunities for growth, your life begins to change. Instead of being at the mercy of your emotions, you take control. So, how do we make compassion a habit? Start small. The next time someone irritates or angers you, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what might they be going through? This simple question can shift your entire perspective. Over time, as you continue to ask this question, you'll notice that your anger doesn't flare up as easily as it used to. In conclusion, compassion is not only a powerful way to dissolve anger, but it's also a path to greater peace and happiness. By understanding the suffering behind others' actions, we create space for kindness, forgiveness, and patience. And as we cultivate compassion in our hearts, we'll find that anger no longer has the same grip on us. It becomes something we can observe, understand, and let go of. As you continue on this journey, remember that every moment is a chance to practice compassion, both for yourself and for others. And with each compassionate response, you'll move one step closer to a life free from anger. The power of detachment, Vairagya, in emotional control. Imagine a tranquil lake. The water is still and clear. Now, think of a stone thrown into that lake. It creates ripples that spread out, disrupting the calm surface. This is like our emotions. When something disturbs us, it's as if a stone is thrown into the lake of our mind, creating ripples of disturbance and turmoil. But what if you could be like the lake before the stone is thrown? What if your mind could remain still and clear, untouched by the ripples of daily life? This is the essence of detachment, known in Buddhism as Vairagya. Detachment is not about removing yourself from life or becoming indifferent to the world around you. Instead, it's about understanding that the external events and situations are not the true sources of your happiness or distress. They are simply like the stones thrown into the lake. What really matters is how you respond to them. Consider the example of a beautiful flower. You can admire its beauty, but if you become too attached to it, you might feel sorrow when it wilts or fades. Detachment means you can enjoy the flower without clinging to it. You recognize its beauty, appreciate it in the moment, but understand that it's transient. This is how we approach our experiences and emotions. In Buddhist teachings, detachment helps us see that our emotions are temporary and that we do not have to be overwhelmed by them. When we practice detachment, we realize that anger, sadness, and joy are all fleeting states. They come and go like the seasons, and none of them define who we truly are. Let's delve deeper into this concept. When you practice detachment, you start to understand that your sense of self is not dependent on the fluctuations of your emotions. You begin to see yourself as the observer, rather than the participant in every emotional storm. Imagine you are watching a movie. You see characters experiencing joy, sorrow, and anger. You feel empathy for them, but you do not become them. You understand that their experiences are just part of the story. This is similar to how detachment works. You observe your emotions without becoming entangled in them. One practical way to cultivate detachment is through mindfulness meditation. In mindfulness, you become aware of your thoughts and feelings without judging them. You observe them as they arise and pass away. This practice helps you to understand that emotions are like clouds passing through the sky. They may obscure the sun for a time, but they eventually move on, revealing the clear sky once more. When you practice mindfulness, you start to see that you have a choice in how you respond to your emotions. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, you can choose to remain calm and composed. This choice is the power of detachment in action. You are not denying your emotions. You are simply recognizing that you are not bound by them. Detachment also helps in dealing with conflicts and disagreements. When someone says something that upsets you, you might feel a surge of anger. With detachment, you can step back and observe the anger without letting it control your actions. You can respond with a sense of calm and clarity, rather than reacting impulsively. This practice of detachment does not mean you become cold or indifferent. It means you approach life with a sense of equanimity. You engage with the world fully, but you do so with the understanding that nothing is permanent. Everything changes, and so do our emotions. Through detachment, we learn to accept that all things, including our emotions, are temporary. This acceptance brings a profound sense of peace. We realize that we do not need to cling to happiness or resist sadness. Instead, we can allow ourselves to experience these states without becoming overwhelmed by them. In essence, detachment empowers us to live a life of balance and harmony. It frees us from the tyranny of our emotions and allows us to respond to life's challenges with grace and wisdom. As you continue to explore detachment, you will find that your ability to handle difficult situations improves. You will respond to life's ups and downs with a sense of inner calm, knowing that you are not defined by your emotions, but by your ability to rise above them. This practice of detachment, rooted in the wisdom of Buddhism, is a powerful tool for transforming your relationship with anger and other strong emotions. By embracing detachment, you can create a space of serenity within yourself, no matter what storms may arise around you. As you move forward, remember that detachment is a journey, not a destination. It requires patience and practice, but with each step, you will find yourself more at peace, less affected by the external world, and more in tune with your true nature. Using meditation to transform anger into peace. In the quiet stillness of meditation, we uncover the truth of our inner selves. Imagine a serene pond, undisturbed by the winds. This is the state we strive for in meditation, a calm, clear surface that reflects the true nature of our minds. When anger rises, it stirs the waters of our being, creating ripples that distort our perception. But with meditation, we learn to calm these waters, seeing clearly and responding with wisdom. Start by finding a comfortable place to sit. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Feel the air enter your lungs, expanding your belly. As you exhale, let go of tension, allowing your body to relax. This simple practice of breathing helps anchor us in the present moment, away from the turbulence of our thoughts and emotions. Anger often feels overwhelming, like a storm that sweeps through our mind. Yet, within meditation, we find a sanctuary from this storm. Each breath becomes a gentle reminder that we are not our anger. We are the stillness behind it. With each exhale, release the tight grip of frustration and let the anger dissolve like mist in the morning sun. As you meditate, observe your thoughts without judgment. If anger arises, simply notice it. Imagine it as a cloud passing through the sky. It may be dark and heavy, but it is only passing through. By acknowledging anger without attaching to it, you create a space between yourself and the emotion. This space allows you to respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively. In the practice of mindfulness, we train ourselves to become aware of our reactions. When anger surfaces, we can pause and breathe, remembering that we have the power to choose our response. Meditation helps us cultivate this awareness, turning anger into a moment of reflection rather than a source of distress. Consider the analogy of a bell. When struck, it rings with a clear, resonant sound. But if we strike it with force, it rings loudly and with discord. When we are calm, our responses are like the clear, harmonious sound of the bell. In meditation, we find this harmony within ourselves, allowing us to respond to anger with clarity and peace. Through regular meditation, we build a foundation of inner peace. This peace does not mean that anger will never arise. Rather, it means that we have cultivated the ability to handle anger with grace. Just as a skilled gardener tends to a garden, we tend to our minds, removing the weeds of anger and nurturing the flowers of tranquility. Meditation also teaches us the art of patience. When anger is present, we may want to react immediately, but meditation helps us slow down. We learn to observe our emotions with patience and compassion. This practice helps us understand that anger is a temporary state, not a permanent condition. As you continue with your meditation practice, you will notice that your reactions to anger become less intense. The more you meditate, the more you will find yourself responding to life's challenges with a sense of calm and understanding. Meditation is not a cure-all, but it is a powerful tool that, with practice, transforms how we interact with our emotions. Embrace the stillness of meditation as a refuge from the chaos of anger. Each session brings you closer to the essence of your true self, a self that is unshaken by the storms of emotion. In this stillness, we find the strength to let go of anger and embrace a life of peaceful awareness. Remember, meditation is a journey, not a destination. Each moment spent in quiet reflection is a step towards a deeper understanding of your mind and emotions. With time, the ripples of anger will become less frequent, and the calm waters of your inner peace will become more steady. So, sit in stillness, breathe deeply, and let the practice of meditation guide you towards a life where anger no longer holds sway. In this peaceful state, you will find that anger loses its grip, and you are free to live with a heart full of serenity and wisdom, cultivating patience, khanti, and tolerance. In the stillness of a Zen garden, we find that patience is like the gentle growth of bamboo, steadfast and enduring. Patience is not merely waiting. It is a way of being, an inner calm that allows us to navigate the world with grace. In our daily lives, we often encounter situations that test our patience. A long line at the grocery store, a delayed flight, or a disagreement with a loved one. Each of these moments is an opportunity to practice the art of patience. Consider this. When you're stuck in a slow-moving line, what happens inside you? Does frustration bubble up, or do you find a way to remain calm? Patience is not just about enduring these moments without complaint. It's about transforming our response to them. It's about embracing the present moment fully, without resistance. When we practice patience, we are not simply waiting for things to change. We are learning to accept and understand the flow of life as it is. Imagine a calm lake. When the water is still, it reflects the world around it perfectly. But when the water is disturbed, the reflection becomes chaotic. Our minds are like this lake. When we are patient, our minds remain calm and clear, able to reflect our experiences with true understanding. But when impatience stirs us, our thoughts become muddled, and our reactions are clouded. Patience, or khanti in Buddhism, is a profound quality that helps us deal with challenges and delays. It teaches us to approach life with a sense of acceptance and to recognize that not everything will unfold according to our desires. By cultivating patience, we allow ourselves to be more present and less reactive. This quality helps us remain steady, even when faced with adversity. One powerful way to develop patience is through mindful breathing. When you feel impatience arising, take a moment to focus on your breath. Inhale slowly and deeply, and then exhale with equal calm. This simple practice grounds you in the present moment and helps to calm the mind. It reminds us that we are not bound by our immediate reactions, but can choose how we respond to them. Another practice is to observe your reactions without judgment. When something happens that tests your patience, take a step back and notice your initial impulse. Are you feeling anger, frustration, or irritation? Acknowledge these feelings without letting them control you. This awareness allows you to respond with a sense of equanimity rather than reacting impulsively. Tolerance is closely related to patience. While patience helps us deal with our own emotions, tolerance helps us understand and accept the actions and behaviors of others. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own journey, and their actions are often a reflection of their own struggles and experiences. By cultivating tolerance, we create a space for empathy and compassion, which in turn fosters deeper connections with those around us. In Buddhism, there is a saying, if you want to see the truth, look at the nature of your own mind. This means that our reactions are a reflection of our inner state. When we cultivate patience and tolerance, we are not just changing how we interact with the world. We are transforming our inner landscape. We are learning to navigate life's challenges with a sense of ease and acceptance, rather than resistance and frustration. Imagine you are a gardener, tending to a beautiful garden. Some plants grow quickly, while others take time to flourish. If you become impatient with the slower-growing plants, you may disturb their growth and hinder their development. But if you cultivate patience, you allow each plant to grow at its own pace, appreciating the unique journey of each one. Similarly, In our lives, patience allows us to support our own growth and the growth of others. The practice of patience is not always easy, especially in a world that often demands instant results. However, by committing to this practice, we create a space for ourselves to respond to life's challenges with clarity and composure. We learn that patience is not a passive state but an active engagement with the present moment, where we choose to meet each experience with grace and understanding. In summary, patience and tolerance are essential qualities that enrich our lives and our interactions with others. They allow us to approach life's challenges with a sense of calm and acceptance, transforming our reactions and deepening our connections. As we continue to cultivate these qualities, we move closer to a state of inner peace, where we can navigate life's ups and downs with equanimity and grace. Through patience, we learn to embrace the present moment fully, and through tolerance, we open our hearts to the experiences of others. Embracing the middle path, Madhyamaka, to balance emotions. In the quiet stillness of the morning, the Zen master contemplates the essence of balance. Life, in its most profound sense, is neither entirely black nor entirely white. It exists in the delicate dance between extremes. To find peace amidst our turbulent emotions, we must embrace the middle path, or Madhyamaka, a concept rooted deeply in Buddhist wisdom. Imagine a tightrope walker moving gracefully between two high buildings. The walker's success lies not in leaning too far to one side or the other but in maintaining a steady, balanced stance. In our daily lives, we too are tightrope walkers, striving to balance between the extremes of pleasure and pain, success and failure, anger and calm. The middle path teaches us to avoid the extremes of indulgence and denial. When we feel anger rise within us, it often stems from an attachment to our desires or aversions. We desire something and are angry when it's not achieved, or we want to avoid something and become upset when we cannot escape it. This push and pull creates a storm within us. But what if we could step back from these extremes? Consider the simple act of breathing. When we are angry, our breath becomes shallow and erratic. But if we pause and take a deep, steady breath, we begin to return to a state of equilibrium. This is the essence of the middle path, finding balance in our reactions. By observing our breath and our thoughts, we can center ourselves, moving away from the chaos of our emotions. The middle path is not about suppressing or ignoring our feelings. It's about understanding them and choosing our responses wisely. When anger arises, instead of letting it dominate, we observe it with detachment. We ask ourselves, why is this anger present? What is it trying to teach me? By doing so, we create a space between stimulus and reaction. In Buddhist teachings, this path is often illustrated by the story of the Buddha's enlightenment. Siddhartha Gautama, before becoming the Buddha, experienced extreme indulgence and extreme asceticism. He found that neither could bring true peace. It was only through the middle path, moderation and balance, that he discovered enlightenment. This lesson applies to us all. Extreme reactions only lead to more suffering. When you find yourself engulfed in anger, take a moment to reflect on the middle path. Ask yourself if your reaction is balanced, or if you are swinging too far to one extreme. For instance, if a colleague's words upset you, instead of reacting with anger or withdrawing completely, find a middle ground. Address the issue calmly, or if needed, take time to cool down before responding. The middle path also encourages us to see the interconnectedness of all things. Our anger often blinds us to the fact that others are also struggling with their own emotions and challenges. By recognizing our shared humanity, we can approach situations with empathy rather than hostility. Practice mindfulness in your daily life. Observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. When anger arises, acknowledge it and let it pass like clouds in the sky. The middle path teaches us that emotions, including anger, are transient. They come and go, but we have the power to decide how we respond. Consider a simple analogy. If you hold a cup of hot coffee too tightly, it will burn you. But if you hold it gently, you can enjoy it without harm. Similarly, when we grip our anger tightly, it burns us and those around us. Holding it with awareness and gentleness allows us to experience our emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Balance is also about accepting that life is a blend of opposites. Joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, are not separate entities but parts of a whole. By embracing this duality, we cultivate a deeper understanding of our own emotional landscape and move closer to inner peace. The practice of the middle path is not a one-time act but a continuous journey. Each day presents opportunities to find balance in our reactions and interactions. As we walk this path, we become more adept at navigating our emotions with grace and wisdom. In moments of conflict, remember the middle path. Seek harmony rather than victory. Approach others with compassion and understanding, recognizing that we all walk our own tightropes in search of balance. Through this practice, we not only transform our own lives but also influence those around us. Our calm presence can be a source of peace and inspiration for others, creating a ripple effect that fosters a more harmonious world. The middle path is a gentle reminder that peace is found not in avoiding difficulties, but in meeting them with a balanced heart and mind. As we continue on this journey, let us embrace the wisdom of the middle path, finding serenity in the midst of life's fluctuations. The Four Noble Truths and their relevance to anger. In the quiet spaces of our minds, where does anger come from? To understand its root, we turn to the Four Noble Truths, which are the essence of the Buddha's teachings. They provide a map to navigate through our emotions, helping us to see anger with new eyes. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, or dukkha. Suffering is a part of life, and it takes many forms: pain, discomfort, and yes, even anger. It's important to recognize that anger is a kind of suffering. When you're angry, you're experiencing a state of unease and discontent. This is the nature of dukkha. The second noble truth is the truth of the cause of suffering, or samudaya. This truth teaches us that the cause of our suffering is craving, attachment, and ignorance. Anger often arises from these very sources. When we're attached to our own desires, or when we crave things to be different from how they are, anger can surge. It's a sign that we're holding onto something tightly, unwilling to let go. The third noble truth is the truth of the end of suffering, or nirodha. This truth offers hope. It tells us that suffering, including anger, can be overcome. By understanding and addressing the causes of our anger, we can reach a state of peace. It's like seeing the light at the end of a tunnel. You can let go of anger by letting go of the cravings and attachments that fuel it. This is the essence of finding inner calm. The fourth noble truth is the truth of the path to the end of suffering, or magga. This path is the Eightfold Path, a practical guide for how to live our lives. It shows us how to walk away from anger and towards peace. Let's explore this path briefly. Right understanding. Understand that anger comes from misunderstanding the nature of reality. By seeing things as they truly are, you can reduce anger. Right intention. Cultivate intentions of kindness and compassion, not anger. Set your mind on peaceful thoughts and actions. Right speech. Speak with kindness and honesty. Avoid words that might provoke anger in yourself or others. Right action. Act with integrity and compassion. Avoid actions driven by anger, and choose those that promote harmony. Right livelihood. Engage in work that does not harm others or yourself. When your work aligns with ethical values, you reduce the likelihood of anger arising from frustration or wrongdoing. Right effort. Make a consistent effort to cultivate positive states of mind and to abandon negative ones like anger. It's like tending a garden. You must nurture good plants and remove weeds. Right mindfulness. Be aware of your thoughts and feelings. Notice when anger arises and observe it without reacting. This awareness can prevent anger from taking control. Right concentration. Practice meditation to develop a focused and calm mind. Through meditation, you gain the ability to stay centered, even in the face of provocations. By following the Eightfold Path, you align your life with principles that reduce and eventually eliminate anger. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path are not just philosophical ideas, they are practical tools for transforming your life. As you reflect on these teachings, consider how they apply to your own experiences with anger. Notice how understanding the nature of suffering and following a path of right action can gradually lead you to a place of peace. Anger is like a storm that clouds the mind. But just as storms pass, so too can anger dissipate when we apply the wisdom of the Four Noble Truths. By embracing this wisdom, we open ourselves to a life of tranquility and contentment. Remember, The journey to overcoming anger is a process, one step at a time, guided by the light of understanding and the practices of mindfulness. The balance between solitude and community in Buddhism. Imagine you are walking in a peaceful forest, alone. The silence surrounds you, and your mind feels clear. Now picture yourself in a bustling market, surrounded by people, noise, and activity. The contrast is striking, isn't it? In Buddhism, both solitude and community play crucial roles in our lives, and understanding their balance can lead to profound inner peace. Solitude offers a space for reflection and self-discovery. When you are alone, away from the distractions and demands of daily life, you have the opportunity to connect deeply with your inner self. It is in these quiet moments that you can hear the whispers of your true nature. This is where meditation and mindfulness flourish, allowing you to observe your thoughts without judgment and understand the essence of your being. Solitude provides a sanctuary where you can recharge your spiritual batteries, away from the clamor of the world. In the solitude of a meditation retreat, for instance, you might find that your mind gradually settles. The noise of the outside world fades, and you begin to notice the subtle nuances of your thoughts and emotions. This process of self-awareness helps you to understand your reactions and cultivate a sense of inner calm. But remember, this solitude is not an escape from the world. It is a preparation for a more meaningful engagement with it. However, community is equally important. The Buddha himself was a part of a community, and he taught that living in harmony with others is essential for personal growth. Engaging with a community provides support, shared wisdom, and opportunities for practice in everyday interactions. It is in the company of others that we can practice compassion, patience, and understanding. These virtues are cultivated not in isolation, but in the midst of relationships and communal activities. Consider how a garden flourishes with both sunlight and rain. The community provides the rain of shared experiences, challenges, and joys. When you interact with others, you have the chance to practice forgiveness, kindness, and empathy. These interactions test and strengthen your spiritual resolve, helping you to grow beyond your personal limitations. The community reflects back to you the areas where you need to work on your patience and understanding. Yet, the balance between solitude and community is delicate. Too much solitude can lead to isolation, where one might become disconnected from the world and its realities. On the other hand, too much time in the company of others can lead to losing touch with your own inner needs and desires. The key is finding a harmonious blend where both aspects enrich each other. Buddhist teachings emphasize the middle way, a path that avoids extremes and seeks balance. This principle applies to the balance between solitude and community. Just as a well-tended garden needs both sunlight and water, your spiritual life requires both time alone and time with others. Solitude helps you to align with your inner truths, while community helps you to practice those truths in real-life situations. In practical terms, this balance might look like setting aside time each day for personal reflection or meditation while also engaging in regular social interactions or group activities. This combination allows you to cultivate a deep sense of inner peace and understanding, while also contributing to the well-being of others. In your daily life, try to notice how you feel in different settings. Are you more at ease when you are alone, or when you are with others? Use these observations to guide you in finding your own balance. Reflect on the moments when you feel most connected and fulfilled, and consider how you can integrate more of those experiences into your routine. As you navigate between solitude and community, remember that both are valuable teachers. Solitude helps you to listen to your inner voice, while community provides the context in which you can apply what you've learned. By embracing both aspects, you cultivate a life of richness and balance, where your inner peace can thrive amidst the joys and challenges of the external world. In the end, the balance between solitude and community is not about choosing one over the other, but about understanding how each supports and enhances the other. Just as a tree needs both roots and branches to grow strong, your spiritual journey requires both quiet moments of self-reflection and active participation in the world around you. Through this balance, you find harmony and a deeper connection to the essence of your being. Conclusion: achieving lasting peace and letting go of anger. Greetings, dear seekers. As we reach the end of our journey together, let us pause and reflect. We have traversed the path of understanding anger, delved into Buddhist teachings, and practiced ways to transform our emotions. Now, we arrive at the moment of culmination, achieving lasting peace and letting go of anger. Imagine for a moment a serene pond. The water is still, reflecting the sky with perfect clarity. Now, picture what happens when a stone is thrown into this pond. Ripples spread across the surface, disturbing the calm. Yet, after some time, the ripples fade, and the pond returns to its peaceful state. Our minds are much like this pond. When anger arises, it disturbs our inner peace, creating ripples of discomfort and distress. However, just as the pond can return to stillness, so too can our minds find their way back to calmness. Let us consider the nature of anger. It is like a guest that arrives uninvited, creating chaos in our inner home. But, just as we can choose how to receive a guest, we can choose how to respond to anger. It is not about denying its presence, but about understanding it and gently guiding it out, allowing peace to once again take its rightful place. We have learned that anger often arises from misunderstanding, attachment, or fear. Through mindfulness, we observe these feelings without judgment. When we see anger coming, we greet it with the awareness of its impermanence. Anger, like all emotions, is temporary. It rises, peaks, and then fades away. We do not need to hold on to it or let it define us. In the practice of compassion, we have discovered a powerful antidote to anger. By extending kindness to ourselves and others, we create a space where anger cannot easily take root. Compassion nurtures understanding and empathy, transforming our reactions from sharp and harsh to gentle and loving. When we encounter anger in others, we meet it with compassion, seeing beyond their outward behavior to the suffering that lies within. Detachment is another key to lasting peace. It does not mean withdrawing from life, but rather recognizing that our happiness does not depend on external conditions. By practicing detachment, we learn to let go of our rigid expectations and embrace the flow of life. We become like a leaf on a river, moving gracefully with the current rather than struggling against it. Meditation, our faithful companion on this journey, offers us a profound way to transform anger. In the stillness of meditation, we become acquainted with the true nature of our minds. We observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. Through this practice, we cultivate a deep sense of inner calm, enabling us to face life's challenges with equanimity. Patience is a virtue we have cultivated, allowing us to navigate the turbulence of anger with grace. It is the steady hand that guides us through stormy waters, reminding us that all things pass in time. With patience, we develop the resilience to weather any emotional storm, emerging on the other side with our inner peace intact. The middle path, as taught by the Buddha, offers us a balanced approach to handling anger. It is a path of moderation, avoiding the extremes of indulgence and denial. By walking this path, we find a harmonious way to address our emotions, acknowledging them without becoming overwhelmed. We remain centered, neither reacting impulsively nor suppressing our feelings. The Four Noble Truths provide a framework for understanding and transforming anger. They teach us that suffering is a part of life, but it is possible to find liberation from it. By recognizing the causes of our suffering, including anger, we can begin to address them and cultivate a state of peace. The path to freedom lies in understanding and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. The Eightfold Path guides us towards emotional mastery by encouraging right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each aspect of this path supports our journey towards overcoming anger and achieving lasting peace. By integrating these principles into our daily lives, we create a solid foundation for inner tranquility. As we conclude our exploration, remember that achieving lasting peace is a continuous journey, not a final destination. It requires patience, practice, and a gentle attitude towards ourselves. Each moment presents an opportunity to apply the wisdom we have gained, to meet anger with understanding, and to cultivate a heart of peace. Embrace the teachings you have learned and carry them with you as you move through life. With each step, may you find yourself more in tune with the calm that lies within. And as you let go of anger, may you discover a deeper sense of serenity and joy. In this final moment, we offer our heartfelt gratitude to you, dear seeker, for joining us on this journey. May the path of peace be ever illuminated before you, guiding you towards a life of harmony and contentment. As you continue forward, remember that the true essence of peace is always within reach, and with each breath, you can return to the stillness of your own inner pond.